Hi, this is API testing with SoapUI 5.6. In the last video, we saw the assertion called contains and not contains. In this video, we will be seeing Xpath and Xquery and how to use it on a SOAP project. So let me open the tool, and I have a SOAP request that has hit the whistle and you have a response. So I'm going to copy the response so that I can elaborate why we go for XPath assertion and Xquery assertion. So here, so I have my response which is showing, giving me the request and the response body. So let's focus on the response body. So here I have result set parent node, and it has child node called result, and it has various child node called result. So there are multiple result nodes in it. If you wanted to assert the field ID, if you want to assert the field source, if you want to assert the field PMID, you go for contains, which we have seen in the last video. But if you want to validate the values those fields are bringing, go for XPath. And if you wanted to manipulate the XML response itself, then go for Xquery. So now let's see an example of how to use XPath. Let me add assertion, property content, go to Xpath match, and so you have this. Now let's say I want to validate the title. I want to validate the title of my first object, of my first node, which is first result. So title is the unique articulation layer and ends with BTR. So for easy, I always start with double slash, and then now this is from the parent node result set. Copy that, and again double slash. What is my next node? My next node is result. Put result. So this one was second, right? So in that case, put 2 and what is it? Then title. Check if it is small t. No, small t. And give it as current. So it brings the second title's content. So the value of the title's field. So save it. Similarly, you can validate. I'm adding one more XPath, which is, let's say we can add it for journal volume. So I'm putting journal volume. Give OK. So here again it starts with result list, result, and I put 1 this time and slash journal volume. So from the current it says 58. So using an XPath is very simple. All you have to do is traverse to the XML, just give the parent node and the subnode and whatever field that you wanted to validate inside the node. It's going to be again a double slash. You put mention the field name that you wanted to validate and what is the value that you're looking for. It is very important that you put the value here. Either you put it manually or you can use select from the current, which will autofill the value for you, and you can hit it save. So next time when you run, the assertion is going to look for that particular value on that particular root node, and it will check if it is going to be present or not. If it is not present, your test is going to fail. You have to work with your developers on why the value is not coming this time. So that is a simple XPath assertion. Um, So if you will browse for XPath functions in W3 school, you will have a couple of function called something, say there's a function called starts with, and you have function called ends with, you have function called date, and you have function called contains. So based on those functions, your value with the result is going to change. For example, if you use start with function, you don't have to pass value here. Instead, you have to pass whether it is true or false. So because you start with function is going to work more or like contains. So I would prefer not to include start with or end with, but if for practice people can go and look at W3 schools for start with and a couple of other functions. So now let's move to Xquery. As I said before, your XPath is going to have control on these values, like validating on the values individually. But if you wanted to manipulate this ID itself, instead of ID, if you want to put a different name, instead of the source, if you want to have a different name in it, you can go for Xquery. But that is not the whole. Um, that's not the whole point of expectation that you should have for Xquery. But the Xquery is going to support you to manipulate the um, XML response that you've got. So let me go for Xquery. I give an add. So my result, open the brace for items. And here again, Xquery is also going to make use of XPath. So I'm going to use the same XPath from the previous one, which is result list slash result. So here I'm not going to mention the node, especially because I'm going to retrieve all the node values of a title or ID or journal volume and anything. So here I'll go for title. Either I can put title here or I can put title here, or I can also leave it. So for now I'm removing that, and I have to mention a return. So my return is going to return the value that I pass in the data function. So data. So inside that I pass items slash I have title slash we call text function because it's going to be a string. It is going to be a string, and I close the data function. Put this, like I said before, I wanted to manipulate the title name. So I put title title. I close it and I put close my result. So let's select. So if you look at it, it's going to retrieve me all the titles that I want from the response. So let's say my title. So if you look at the response, it is going to give you. So I have manipulated the title now, right? So this is going to be my response. But yeah, however, I wouldn't practice you to change everything and manipulate all the things that in the response. But yeah, that is something that you can do in Xquery. So that's one of the use of using Xquery, like to manipulate the actual response. So hit a save. So it has changed now. Hold on. Let's choose the current value. So save. Similarly, let's add one more Xquery. So again, my result open for items in result list slash result. I can use where clause here. Let me think about what I should do in the where clause and return data and items slash. Let's look at if I want to use a where class, I should know I should put some particular condition in it. So So let's look at ID. I put ID slash and slash ID. Now here I can put items slash ID greater than 230. You can also use a var class. You can also use order by. Mm, let's do this. Let's pass the function. Okay. Pass the function in it. Text function. So here if you look at it, it has only those values that are greater than this thing, and you can also use order by. So now this will order by. So Xquery is all about how you manipulate the data and present the response in the way that you wanted it to look. So that is it for today then. Yeah.